The only difference between developed countries and undeveloped countries is political tribalism. The only difference. Now people say, oh, isn't it resources? No. Almost every country out of 200 has resources, enough value to keep them at least moderately wealthy and well-fed. But a lot of them aren't. And it's not because of resources. That's not the only reason. Now, that could make life easier if they had a giant abundance of resources. Both Russia and India have a lot of resources and enough people, but they both suffer from political tribalism. Brazil has a lot of resources, but suffers from political tribalism. China has a lot of resources, now mostly depleted, but historically they've had a lot of people and a lot of resources. But they're divided. China's a very diverse place with a lot of issues. Internal strife is their number one challenge to the unity and future of China is political and social unity, which is why you hear so much about authoritarian rule, is because they're trying to keep a bottle on all those issues. And the amount of protests has been in the thousands for years. And their interior defense minister has always mentioned riots as their number one challenge to China on a month-to-month basis. They have huge issues with it. Whole cities kick out all the police and lock it off. It's the huge deal. You just don't hear about in the West because our investors want to create this image of eternal growth so that they can get more money off their investments in Asia. But the thing is, it's never about resources. It's about unity. If you can't get the people organized to pull the shit out of the ground and use it in a correct, efficient manner, you're never going to be successful. And that's why countries like Germany or England, which don't have as much raw resources as a lot of the countries around the world, comparatively Brazil or India, are more wealthy and more organized because they got it together politically. They have stronger unity and a national identity. Now, that doesn't mean that historically that was the case. I mean, the UK has had huge issues with different identities, with the Irish and the Welsh, even to a lesser degree, and the Scottish, all vying for different political alliances and suppression throughout time. And the Germans were one of the last nation states to form in Western Europe, along with Italy, because they had so many different Germanic tribes and cultures and traditions and little fiefdoms. So they were able to forge an identity and a bureaucracy and a method of doing things that was organized and unified. And they, once doing so, they became a threat to the entire world. Germany, without unity, would have been nothing. England would never have become an empire where the sun never sets. Same in Japan. Japan historically had many shoguns and different little fiefdoms as well, and they also created a national identity that made them feared in the entire region and unparalleled in combat. However, all of these powers today have been humbled by America, the first multicultural nation, which people can come from anywhere and become American, as long as they follow certain values. They can be a part of the club, part of the team, and they can win, and they can help it grow and develop and become stronger. This idea of a team based on common values has been the number one key to American success throughout the last century and this one so far. However, political tribalism has been growing. Now, of course, in the past during Civil War, it was much more heightened, of course, but it's been exacerbated by social media. It's been exacerbated by a media that's dying, an old print media that has to create sensational headlines just to make enough money to keep the lights on. It's been exacerbated by the fact that there's a pandemic on. It's been exacerbated by the fact that people don't talk to each other in the same way before. Income and quality of life are declining. All these attributes play into it. However, at the fundamental basis, it's about political unity. If there's political unity, any people can do well. You can see this in countries all around the world. Whether it's Korea, and how they rose up from a mostly agrarian society to become South Korea and some of the most leading global companies today, even though they have a lack of resources, or Singapore, which has a lack of resources but is unified and has become a wealthy center in Asia. You never see these things in the developing world. If you go to Brazil, you do not see political unity. They fundamentally undermine each other to a point in which no party, whether it's in power or not, can get things done. America now has become and started to mimic the kind of insane partisanship that was only witnessed in the developed world. Now the developing world is starting to look a lot like the developed world, where these political unions, these tribal identities are becoming these left and right and Democrat and Republican. People not even want to go to the same wedding or the same holiday together. The families are experiencing more division than ever. People not wanting to date people of a different political ideology. Similar to like a lot of racism is just transferring over to political division. So people can segregate themselves in a society just as effectively and just as harshly. But at the end of the day, the thing that makes the difference is whether or not you play on the same team. Political unity is the only difference between the success of a nation and its economy and its GDP and its failure. People forget this. It sounds simplistic, but it's not. You will never see a stable economy with a broken government. They don't exist. You need political unity first, and then a strong economy follows. It's been in every country, in every nation state, in every empire, in every kingdom throughout history. Stability breeds success. That is why nation states were created. That's why this whole system exists, is to create an image of unity. Now, there are legitimate reasons why people would be frustrated with the global order today. It's pretty badly run. There's huge flaws all throughout the system. But they need patched up, fixed, improved, or ripped out and innovated. But nonetheless, the overall goal is to play on the same team. The team human, team your species. There's no benefit to political tribalism. The only benefit to political tribalism is perhaps a short-term game where you can blame all your flaws on your opponent. Say, if it weren't for these guys, everything would be successful. People think America cannot become a developing nation, cannot slip into poverty. Homelessness plagues major cities because of bad policies. America's just a few bad policies away from being a developing nation. I grew up in developing nations. I've seen how an increase in political tribalism directly correlate with a poor economy, directly correlate with out-of-control homelessness, poverty, and drugs. America is experiencing this epidemic, this meth epidemic, this homelessness epidemic. They're indicative of a political system that's stagnating and refusing to serve its people, and serving a small special interest, and sacrificing the entire country to make a short-term profit. All you need is common sense people making common sense laws to solve these issues. It doesn't take a genius, it doesn't take an expert, it just takes a few normal people organized over a period of time, committing themselves to action.